welcome along to the match where it's that time again. Yes, the first Clásico of the season is upon us, the biggest game in the world, as Real Madrid travel to the Camp Nou to take on Barcelona on Saturday afternoon. Sid Lowe is with me as ever to preview the game. And Sid, we haven't had one for nearly 8 months. It's about time we had a Clásico.
It certainly is, particularly in terms of what's happened over the last few years. And we've had 16 Clásicos in 2.5 years because they were grouping together, because kept facing each other in the Supercopa, kept facing each other in the Copa del Rey, even faced each other, of course, in the Champions League semi-final, famously faced each other 4 times in 18 days. So with all of that coming together, 8 months feels like a really quite a long wait for this, and I think it's come at a good time in the sense that I think we've started to see a little bit of evolution of the two sides. We've started to see a little bit of what they might be like in what's a new era for both clubs. So I think this is really quite exciting. Absolutely.
Well, Real Madrid warmed up for the game with a victory midweek in the Champions League. They beat the Italian champions Juventus by 2-1 at the Santiago Bernabeu. There were plenty of positives to take from this game.
Yeah, it was a really strange game, I thought, because I thought Real Madrid, to start with, obviously they started brilliantly with this goal, but to start with they did some really nice things going forward, but I thought they were surprisingly weak at the back. By half-time, Juventus had more shots, and yet, curiously, by the end of the game, it felt like Madrid's poorer performance was the second half, not the first, even though it was the first half when Juventus had looked probably more threatening. I think part of the reason for that is, of course, the sending off of Chiellini, I think, made everybody in the stadium assumed that Real Madrid would then be comfortable and they would kind of cruise to the final whistle and they would maybe add another goal or perhaps even another 2. And because it didn't happen, I think that created a sense of tension and nervousness, which was a little bit exaggerated to some extent, because I never really felt like Juventus were going to get another goal. This goal, to be honest, at this point Juventus probably deserved it. Madrid then got a penalty which finally answered that question that we always ask, which is what exactly does the guy behind the goal do, the guy on the byline. Ronaldo scored, 2 more for him, already on 7 in the Champions League, more than most clubs have got, let alone more than most players have got, already more than half the amount he got in the whole of last season in the Champions League when he was top scorer.
Absolutely. So another victory for Real Madrid in the Champions League, making it 3 wins out of 3 coming into the Clásico. In terms of injuries for Real Madrid, the good news is that there aren't really many.
No, the only one really is Xabi Alonso, and he's now fully back in training, but we reckon he's probably a week, maybe 10 days away from full fitness. Gareth Bale now is ready, and according to Carlo Ancelotti, is ready not only to play but to start. Now, I personally don't think they would risk Bale for 90 minutes. I think he might play 60 or 70, but of course that does mean he could start the game, and I think he will. Obviously, Iarramendi has stepped into Xabi Alonso's position. I think played largely pretty well, particularly in the last couple of the games. Maybe the first 2 were a slight doubt. Ancelotti today was talking about the fitness of Benzema after quite a tough game in the Champions League in midweek, mostly a role that he played which was defensive to some extent, in that it was closing down Pirlo. So to be honest with you, I think Benzema may not start, but as you say, apart from that, everybody available.
In terms of injuries, there aren't many. In terms of form, 2 wins against Malaga and Juventus. Is there a feeling that this Clásico is coming at a good time for Real Madrid?
Well, bear in mind that the nature of the rivalry between Real Madrid and Barcelona is, as Xavi Hernandez once put it, the Barcelona players, it's like a scales, that even though there are 2 sides, however much weight you put in one side or the other, they can never both be up at the same time. So inevitably, the way that you look at Real Madrid is also conditioned by the way you're looking at Barcelona. So the fact that Real Madrid had a good performance against Malaga and then a good victory with good moments against Juventus would in any case make you think, all right, there's a chance for Real Madrid. But if you add to that the fact that Barcelona have drawn twice in a row, away in Pamplona, away at San Siro against Milan, then of course that means that Real Madrid's side goes up because Barcelona's side goes down. So I think that does mean that from a Real Madrid perspective, this feels like a good time to be playing Barcelona. It feels like they're coming into it right, in a way that probably a fortnight ago we wouldn't have said.
Well, let's hear from the Real Madrid manager, Carlo Ancelotti, who's been speaking at the pre-match press conference. Now, he was asked about Gareth Bale, and he was asked, Gareth Bale has overcome his injuries. Are we going to see the real Bale?
I think so, because it's true that he didn't have easy time in this moment, but he worked hard. He used the period of the international break to improve his condition, and now, in my opinion, in his opinion also, I think he's ready to play from the beginning. And when he start to play, sure, will be the real Bale.
The first Clásico of the season, undoubtedly a very important clash, but would you say that the result could define the outcome of La Liga?
No, I don't think so. The match is very important, of course, because I think Barcelona, also Atletico, will fight for the league until the end of the season. But it's a very important game, but I think that it's too early to decide in this moment the final result.
Carlo Ancelotti speaking in the pre-match press conference. So let's take a look at who Sid thinks is going to start for Real Madrid in the Camp Nou on Saturday afternoon. And there's a little bit of an unfamiliar lineup to that front three.
Yeah, and we've completely changed. Well, I've completely changed. Let's see if Ancelotti does it. I think this is what he's contemplating. I'm not saying 100% sure that he'll go for this, but I think certainly there are signs that he's contemplating this. That instead of that 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2, as Ancelotti sometimes calls it, that it might be something closer to a 4-3-3. And I think it has there are a couple of reasons for it. One is, I think it creates a structure in which both Di Maria and Bale can both play. But of course it means losing Benzema. But the thing about losing Benzema, I think, is he comes off the back of that game, and it felt to me like Ancelotti was already preparing the ground for that in the press conference, saying he's very tired, he's come off this game where he was chasing down Pirlo. The other thing is, I think it enables you to play on the break. And with the speed of those three, Barcelona are a side that give you space, that enable you to run counter-attacks on them in a way that perhaps other teams wouldn't do to Real Madrid. And Ancelotti today said that counter-attack wouldn't be if you like, the ideal for Real Madrid. It wouldn't be what they were necessarily aiming at. He said, but why not use it at times? Because if you go to Barcelona and you try and compete for possession, there's a good chance you won't succeed. So you've got to recognise that when you get the ball, you've got to use it well. And I thought today, it felt to me like he was hinting at that kind of approach, and I think this may well be the best way of doing so.
Lineup from Sid remains to be seen if Carlo Ancelotti will feel the same. We'll know around about 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Just before we go, we've been asking all day on Twitter for you to send us your thoughts ahead of the game using the hashtag #TheMatchRM. Got a few of your quotes here. Ceci Arenberg says, I can't wait for tomorrow's El Clásico. I'm probably more nervous than the players themselves. I know the feeling. Young Shizzle says, I look forward to seeing what the likes of Isco, Bale and Iarra have to offer if they play. It will be their first Clásico, of course. And at Amiable EJ says, it's going to be a tough one. Let the boys stay focused and determined. Wise words indeed. That's all we've got time for on this edition of The Match. Hope you enjoy the match in question, which kicks off 6 p.m. at the Camp Nou on Saturday afternoon. From Sid and myself, it's adios.